Vote Power Line starts now. Good afternoon, Karen. Nice to see you. Beautiful smile.
Thank you very much, David. As usual, I hope you're are over the your your challenges, little medical. When I say medical,
Yes.
I know you had the flu or something, but hope I'm not giving away any private
No, no, no.
information.
No,
I
no.
had my flu. I had
I
my statement with the flu, so I know what it's like.
yeah, but it
And
was something more than the flu, and
okay, but
no,
I'm
no,
just happy to
medic.
have to know that you're back and I'm back, and of course, Richard and Ruben.
Yeah.
And I always have to say hello to Melissa because she's so very, very dependable in terms
Yes.
of making sure that I'm ready and on time and all of that.
Yes.
And of course, Paul Richards, who is the man behind the scenes, who is responsible, I think, for having the show in the first place. So
Yes.
happy to be here. In fact, just let me just say, I went to collect some shoes from a little shoemaker, not any little hole in the wall. And
Yeah.
I felt very good to hear him say that, they listen to what we have to say because of the information. And, that's really what I hope that we do achieve on the show.
Yes. Me too. Richard, good afternoon. Mr. Noray, I guess his camera is warming up.
Yeah, not only camera. He's unmuted. He's not. Is he muted? Richard, are you muted?
He's there, but he's muted. Probably he's in an area where we have the
Yes. But
abandoned internet.
I, I can't say to start off with because I didn't intend that to be one of or the main topics, but I was asked about it by someone who I think we should want to hear. I mean, it was a fair inquiry or inquiry, as the Americans may say,
Mhm.
as to the voting outcome for the Electoral College on Friday for the election of Christine Kangoo as our new president,
Mhm.
and of course the fact that three of the votes, well, were spoiled or whatever you may call it, but
Mhm.
there were, I would believe, 28 members who would represent the opposition, but in Senate, six in the Senate, I believe, and 19 in the House. So
Mhm.
that should, as I got it wrong, is 19 plus, should it be 19 plus, I think I have gotten my math a little wrong, but in any event, there were three spoiled ballots and they
Yes,
would
there
have either
was.
come, it was, excuse me?
Yeah, out of 73, we had three
Yes,
split and
three
48
spoiled ballots.
and
Yeah, so
22
I think the
can.
the general consensus is it would have come from the independent, no, sorry, from the opposition side,
Yeah.
because they were deliberately spoiled, apparently. Two were empty, I think, had nothing on it, and one had X's all over the page. So they intended to spoil the ballot. So you either could say it was from the independent senators
Mhm.
who did that, or more likely it is that it was members of the opposition, either in the Senate or in the House, who are responsible for those ballots being spoiled, deliberately so. So,
Mhm.
of course, the upshot of all of that is to say that clearly, even on the opposition side, Mr. Khan, senior counsel, did not have the support. One could conclude reasonably, did
Yeah.
not have the support of all the members of the opposition.
Hmm.
So they broke ranks. And you
Yeah.
don't do that. You don't do that in politics. You might have your fights, like all families,
Yeah.
and we have their fights, but not when in the public glare we
Mhm.
have a united front. So it was a very telling blow, but
Hmm.
not unexpected from my point of view, because my unfortunate or fortunate position is that I don't know if there's any one of them who is involved at some level that I do not personally know. So I do have views and points of view.
Right. Yeah. I tell you, because I too followed it all the way, and I thought to elect a president, it wasn't based on the constitutional way we do things by via the electoral college. I thought that was piece of cake, just vote for or for this one or that one, and let's get it on with. Because I mean, all the same, I too think that we should be allowed to vote for a president than via electoral college. Somehow I feel there's bias there. That's my opinion.
Well, I will say, see Richard joining us. But if one want, this is the conundrum or the dilemma that I find myself in on a personal level, because I do know the new president. I
Yeah.
like her tremendously.
All right.
I like her tremendously. And I have regard for her for many of the things that the Prime Minister said about what she had achieved and the award for innovation award. All of that was true. I wasn't in government then.
Yeah.
But when I did come in, I learned that she, president, was responsible for the whole restructuring, the fact that you could get your birth and your death certificate, and the whole computerization system. It was the Christine Kanglu, as Minister of Legal Affairs, was behind that.
Okay.
And she got, so there's no question about that.
Yeah.
And comes from a family of lawyers. I think there's about 7 of them from South Trinidad,
Yeah.
all distinguished. I taught her brother, Colin, who persists on calling me Miss. Yes, how did I know it was he? I went somewhere and I heard somebody say Miss, and I didn't recognize him because he had a beard.
Yeah.
But I recognized him, Miss.
Yeah.
I said, Colin. That was just about 4 days ago.
Oh.
And of course, husband Kerwin, just to reiterate my own personal feelings on it. Kerwin Garcia was one of my students, in my early years of teaching. He was valedictorian in his class. I'm more a person of great integrity, ability. I cannot say that enough words. I would want to say, and my grandson shocked me when he knew the word hyperbole.
Yeah.
But I cannot say anything that would sound like exaggeration in what I view, how I view Kerwin Garcia. And I have the absolute regard and respect for Kerwin. And he knows that. He knows that. I've met him many times since there's been a change of government. And he knows that I feel that way about him. And I feel that way about the current president.
Yes.
So on a personal level, I take no pleasure in taking the position I do take, and I am more entrenched in it because of the fact that they have descended the position of the president to one of party against party. So I know that Richard is Richard is here, so I don't want to take up all the time. So I could expand on it once I hear Richard's view, but I do know now, without a shadow of a doubt, and that this has descended the office of the president against all the intention, I think, of the Constitution, not of people, not of persons, of our Constitution. It has descended into unquestionably party politics, and that is not a good look, and it's not good for the country.
I agree.
So I don't know what I will expand on it after I hear Richard, and I'll say why I am so entrenched in my opinion, but knowing very well, as I've said early on, that it has absolutely nothing to do with Miss Kangaloo, for whom I like her, and I like her husband very much. Because I like her father, I like his father. I don't. At all.
Richard.
Yeah. What could I say? I share similar views as expressed by
you forgot me after a week. Yeah.
No.
You forget me after a week. It's all right.
Oh, come on.
Richard.
Who could forget you? Who could forget this? Who could forget this world-class beauty? Come on.
Yeah, David, start laughing.
No, who could forget that, Karen? And the wonderful movements and gesticulations that support, that type of
passion.
Someone would have to be crazy, suffering with some kind of mental condition to so quickly forget this quality. Not me.
Yes, David, you have a right to laugh. Go ahead, Richard. Waxing poetic, but let's say your view, though.
All right. For me, just like you, I think Christine Kangaloo is, to me, a very good choice to be president, and nice lady and everything. I'm of that view. But what was wrong with her selection in my opinion, is based on the Prime Minister's position, his former position. And I don't think, as a leader of a country, or as someone who was aspiring to become the leader of a country, should play around with such fundamental positions that, you would have taken at a particular time. And just for whatever reason now, you change your position without there being some, serious explanation for doing so. You complain vehemently against other persons when they were being considered because they were in politics, right? And you highlighted so many different things that were wrong with doing that and how it could affect the country and so on. And you see, I tell you, the Lord works in mysterious ways, be careful what you say. As He'll put you right back in that position to see what you'll do, He placed the Prime Minister in this position, not only for this, for several other things. And to let him to bring himself to himself, to see how he would behave and react if he was in the position and now he's actually there, right? He sees one thing to speak about something or what you would have done had you been in the position when you're not in it and you're talking that way, as opposed or compared to when you get the position, what you would do. So sometimes if you don't know that what the considerations may be, you shouldn't run your mouth out so early and take those serious positions. Because to me, it was a very serious position he took when he said he could never do that.
You know what Mr. Mann used to say? Curry dog eat raw meat. I used to say in Parliament all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead though.
So,
yeah.
And now you watch the country, perhaps hoping we forget what you said. And you come back now, and you're going absolutely against your express position that we were supposed to have taken seriously back then. You are telling us now, don't take you seriously. Whenever you say something, notwithstanding how serious you make it sound at this time, you're also telling us we should reject anything you had to say. And that is my interpretation of what has happened here. My position has absolutely nothing to do with Christine Kangaloo. It has to do with the person who made the selection for her to be there. That's what it had to do. His position that he took before and his position that he just threw away now and reversed, or departed from because he felt it was necessary to do so now. And to me, that is very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. And therefore, I cannot
but not unexpected. But not unexpected.
Yeah. I
but
cannot
who did he object to before?
For doing what he does, for what he did. But I support Christine.
Okay, can I ask you something?
I support
who
Christine,
did he expect?
But I
who did he
what he did.
Who did he object to previously? Because I don't agree with you on your position. I agree with you on the one part, but I do not agree with you with regard to the appointment of Christine Kangaloo. I'll say why. But before I do, who did he?
It had plenty names. Some were politicians when they were looking for people, and his position was, he not supporting any politician to be president.
There we go. There we go. Then you've answered my question. There we go.
Right? He couldn't do that.
There we go.
So if he couldn't do it then, how he can do it now?
Right, but okay, so you're looking at two issues here, Richard. The issue of credibility of your prime minister, that you can't go on what he says. I mean, he takes a very strong position and articulates it on the basis that putting a politician there is not the right thing. So, and he's gone against his own very words. So that's a good point. But let's look at the reason why. And that is why Ms. Kangaloo should not be the president. And I will say very clearly why. If I was going on I like her, of course I would support it, but I'm not about liking or not liking. This is about what is the intention behind our Republican Constitution. It is to be found in its provisions. It is to be found in its provision. And in fact, I was asked by someone, what did I think about the vote? 3 apparent members of the opposition not voting in favor of Israel Khan. But that's exactly why, because you know what it was? Party against party. Israel Khan in July 2022, I don't want to go into psychological, because I'm not by far not there, but there's this thing called projection. Sometimes when we project our own views onto others, you know, that is a recognized, what shall I say, a recognized psychological or a factor that one applies, that you project your own views onto others. And why am I saying that? In 2022, I went back and looked at it in July 2022, when Kamala Prasad was objecting to the motion, the motion of no confidence against Reginald Armour as AG. One of the things she said was that many of those who are in senior council position do not want to go against Reginald Armour because most of the briefs come from the government, either for or against, but it's the government involved, whether it's building a boat, building a road, building a school, whatever it is, the energy sector, somehow the government is involved. And that's where you make your money. Whether a commission of inquiry, whatever it is, that's where you're going to make your money. And you do not want to go on the wrong side of the government. So she made a general statement that a lot of the senior council will not go against Reggie Armour because they are looking out for themselves and looking out for their briefs. And Reggie and Israel Khan last year, he had this to say. He said he attacked her for that. So she had no right to say that. But I am not a member of the party, but I support Kamala Prasad in the UNC, and he will vote for her. So you is no question that they, and I think it was deliberate, you put in a party person, we put in a party person. You put in a party person for president, we put in a party person. We're not pretending, because you're not pretending. You're not even going through the motions of pretending that the person who you are selecting for the office of the head of state is not a party card holder, is not a party person. That is who you put as the head of state, a person who is in the bowels of the PNM. So we're going to take Israel Khan because Israel Khan is a party man. He's a party man on the other side. So nothing wrong. So what it did, in my view, it highlighted the sheer hypocrisy of that entire selection of the president, because it flies against the role of a constitutional republic, which is that the supreme power lies in the people, and it is expressed through its representatives. You are going to tell me that, and I mean no offense to Ms. Kanglu, you know, and I hope when I see her on the streets, or I might see her on the street anymore, but if I see her somewhere, I hope she would still greet me, unlike one of her former presidents who knew me very well. I even went by his home, played guitar and act as if he didn't know me. Yes, in my own place where I live, right where I live, came here on a Sunday morning, didn't know I lived here, expressed great surprise when I said, yes. He said, you live here? Yes, I do live here. You didn't think you were going to find me on a Sunday morning when you thought no one would see you? And acted as though he did not know me. This is a man whose home I had been to, friendly with him, and acted as if he didn't know me. So I'm praying that is not going to be the case with Ms. Kanglu, nor her husband. But I'm not going to hold my breath, having had a bad experience already. But I am digressing. My point is that even when Ms. Prasad Possessor selected the Anthony Carmona, he had no history of being in politics. He'd come from the International Court of Justice. He had been a Court of Appeal judge. He had no obvious connection with the party politics of this country, right? Even if he had, but he did not obviously have it. So he did not, and as a matter of fact, when he was selected, I think the whole country was happy with his selection until he proved us everybody was glad when he left, for reasons which we don't need to go into. And then Paula May Weeks, even if Paula May Weeks is a good friend of the a friend of, because I went to law school with them, by the way, with Ptolemy Weeks. So I know the little group. Even if you want to say maybe there's friendship there, but she came as a Court of Appeal judge, retired. She came no obvious affiliation with the PNM party, none whatsoever. And she messed it up when Gary Griffith was appointment. She showed a hand, taking instructions from the Prime Minister. She taken instructions from the Prime Minister, and she's not even from the bowels of the PNM. She's not even a party card holder. She is a Court of Appeal judge who has to dispense justice at the highest court of our country, where justice is supposed to be blind. And she, in my respectful opinion, when it came to the issue with Gary Griffith, and the Prime Minister came and visited her on the same day that Blissy Prasad came with the merit list, and the Prime Minister came with a report, she said the list was immediately withdrawn. She had no power to do that. Section 124 says, upon submission of that report, she is to notify Parliament. But she did not do that. So if it is that you have Anthony Carmona, who everyone was glad to see the back of him, sorry, Anthony Carmona, but that's how people felt, and Ptolemy Weeks, who did us have a great service with regard to the issue with Gary Griffith, what do you leave for Christine Gangaloo? Christine Gangaloo was a minister under Prime Minister Manning. Then she was a minister when I was there, when Mr. Manning was Prime Minister until 2010. She went up and was defeated in Pointe-a-Pierre, the seat in Pointe-a-Pierre, as the by the opposition. I think she got, so she was an active politician. When the PNM won in 2015, she was right back in the saddle, and she came off the saddle into the post of prime. I think, to what extent do you expect her? The expectation would be if Ptolemy Weeks and Anthony Carmona were not party card holders, did not appear to be able to maintain their independence when they could. What do you expect from Christine Gangaloo? You think she's going to say when the Prime Minister, where she has discretion or judgment, she's going to go against him? So what's the point? Then we have, as the head of state, on the face of it, a ceremonial head of state, as a what you call it, a ceremonial head of state, and just someone who is there in only there in a position really not in the position that the Constitution intended. So for those reasons, and that was the reason I suppose your Prime Minister objected to political appointees, that Christine Gangaloo has no right to be the president of this country. She is a PNM. You think she's going to go against the Prime Minister? So what she's there for then? What is she there for? She is there to she is then a ceremonial head of state. And that is not the intention of our Constitution. And so from that point of view, the Prime Minister should have chosen someone who did not have that direct linkage with the party politics and bring someone else, but not someone who was so directly involved in the politics. Her father-in-law was a minister of education, and my unfortunate experience of being my campaign manager in W. Mira. My unfortunate experience. So, Christine Gangaloo, if you are looking at our Constitution and our Democratic Republican Constitution and her role as head of state to act in certain areas in her own judgment and in her discretion, I'm not sure that she can do that. Or let us put this way, justice must not only be seen to be done, it must be done. And in her case, it doesn't seem to be done. And I do not think it was a right thing for the Prime Minister to do that to the country. And it has nothing to do with anything against Christine. It is not the right thing. Richard, you seem very distracted. I feel as though I don't know.
I'm listening, Karen. I'm listening.
Yeah, because I can't understand how liking her and whether she did this or whether there are lots of people like that. There are lots of people in this country, and that's not the issue. If you're looking for certain jobs, when you pick somebody as a judge, what you're looking for? You're going to bring a party card holder to become to put them on the judiciary? No, you look for someone who not only has the intellectual gravitas, not only has done well, but you look for someone who has it, who you believe will dispense justice fairly. Now, when you put somebody who comes out of the bowels of the PNM, do you think that person, on the face of it, going into that role, do you think that any decision she makes, even if it is independent, people will consider it to be independent? So it is frustrating the intention of the Constitution, in my view.
And I agree with you fully. Because she has
You
never
do?
demonstrated. Yes, fully, Karen. It was a nice piece that you just did there. I don't think, while I like her, and for quite some
Yes.
time, as one of us in the party, I'm a PNM, as you know, I make no bones
A lot
about
of
your
always saying that
PNM
these days,
yourself.
you know, you're the second Sean that somebody told me that.
Second, what?
I was on
Second,
another
what?
show, on another show that I did, the person surprised me out of the blue. They said, you know, I'm a PNM. I said, okay. That's not the point, though.
Okay, that is not the point. And as a PNM, I'm saying, though, I always liked her. I think she was always steady. And, you know, I mean, I can't say she was a fighter. I can't recall what she fought for. But I think she was always steady. But one of the things that I know, I believe I could say as well, is that she has done nothing to inform me that she could go against this prime minister. I don't know if you
Right.
understand that.
That is
Yeah.
exactly the point. Not go against. This is the other thing. You see this thing with Israel Khan? They could not put Israel Khan there. Israel Khan came in there like if he was a pugilist. Like he came in there like if he thought he was on the opposition, like it was a position on the opposition bench coming to fight. No, I think, let me just say this for the public, because it was even an education for myself. When you are the head of state, which is what Christine Kanglu is as president, that person is the head of the executive. And as head of the executive, if the Constitution did not otherwise provide, that person as head of the repository, the person in whom the executive powers repose, could do all the things that the executive could do, but that is not what is intended. It is intended that the government will run the country. And therefore the head of state, as the Constitution provides, I think in Section 74 says that Section 7, no, I think it's Section 80 that says, unless otherwise provided, where there's provision that says that the president shall act in accordance with the advice of the prime minister, the president shall act in accordance with the cabinet. And that is correct, because it is the executive, which is the government running the country. You cannot have a president who wants to fight you, because it is not in the interest of the country to have as the head of state someone who is going mano mano with the government. You want someone with whom you have trust and confidence, but has enough independence of thought and action that should the opportunities as the Constitution so provides for independent action, that he or she will do so and not be impacted or affected by party political allegiance. And in the case of Christine Kanglu, that is not the case. She cannot say that. It's who will she convince? Who will she convince that is not the case? And is that in the interest of our country? No, it is not. It absolutely is not. So I'm making the point.
It's not. It's not.
No, but I'm making the point that the government will want someone who they can work with, and that is absolutely right. Section 24 says so. We don't go through all the sections. Section 27, when Nur Hassan Ali went off and they had the coup, the president of the Senate, Emmanuel Carter, acted for him as the president of the Senate, because Section 27 says that when the president of the head of state is not here, the president of the Senate shall act. We've seen those things. We also know that if I were in the Prime Minister Rowley, you do not want a president of the republic who is going to go rogue on you, Who is going to start? You fall out with them midterm. You might fall out with them midterm. And guess what happens if you fall out with them midterm? If you fall out with them midterm, you can't remove her. It takes 2/3 of all the members of the House and the Senate. And then you have to set up a tribunal. But guess who acts when you're trying to remove the actual president, the president of the Senate? So when you install that person as president, you have to understand, unless they resign or die, not watching that, or you cannot remove them. So you have to be very careful who you put, because you don't want to Ocasio situation where they had a special state emergency to remove her, all right? Because she fell out with the government. You also know that the government has to be careful who they put, because Section 82 says that while the president must act in accordance with the prime minister, shall act, mandatory, Section 82 says whether or not the president has acted in accordance with the advice of the prime minister cannot be inquired into, which is what happened. We spoke about it already with James Alva Bain, and they went to court, and A&R Robinson put in an affidavit and say that Alex Clark never consulted with him with the appointment of James Alva Bain to 2 commissions, a PNM supporter as he was. And the court said, no, we have no authority to inquire. So can you imagine if you put in a president who goes rogue on you, who you fall out with for some reason, and she said, you can't remove me, you know how hard it is to remove me? Look at Section 30, look at Section 37 or what 38. You'll see how hard it is to remove me. You're stuck with me, And not only that, guess what? You cannot take me to court to find out if I took your advice or not, because we already tested that in court and found out you cannot do that. On top of that, the president is immune from any civil action done in her capacity as president. So from the government's point of view, it is understandable that they want a president who they can work with for the interests of the country. At the same time, you have provisions in that same constitution that clearly show that it is not intended that the president will just be a figurehead. The president, we saw it already, we ain't going back to go back all over it again, but that's how Patrick Manning became prime minister, when A&R Robinson had to exercise his own judgment to decide who had majority control. So we know it's happened already. And as I mentioned, a very important thing that people may not pay attention to, when the president proclaims a state of emergency, before it's effective, he or she has to sign a written declaration that he or she is satisfied that the conditions of state of emergency. Could you imagine the president says, no, I'm not signing a written declaration. Yeah, you can proclaim as much as you want to proclaim. I'm not signing that. And guess what? You can't move me so easily. And guess what? You can't say I didn't listen to your advice. How are you going to prove it? So I understand that the government will be careful. But at the same token, you do not want a president that you feel that the prime minister could say, I want a state of emergency on spurious grounds, on abusing a state of emergency, which he can do twice, and then he has to go to parliament and get a special majority. But for two occasions, he can do it. You do not want a prime minister who abuses his position, uses a state of emergency for spurious political grounds, and you have a president who knows that is what he's doing, but is a yes, and say, okay, prime minister, where's the sign? With the written declaration, let me sign it there. Okay. And you do not want a president who, when they talk about the 9 independent senators, is really not 9 independent senators, but it's who the prime minister wanted to appoint. You don't want to think that's what she would do. You do not want a president that, in her own judgment, can revoke the position of an opposition leader because the prime minister don't like the opposition leader. And listen, the Constitution gives you the right to do that, Constitution gives you the right to do that. Yes, Mr. Prime Minister. Yes, Mr. Prime Minister. You do not want that. And guess what? Even if she would not do that, the government has set themselves up for us to think so. Who is not going to think? Who is not going to think? As nice and as sweet and everything, as wonderful as Christine Kangaloo is. That's not why she's there. She's not there in that capacity. Who is going to really think that she would really be able to be a true gatekeeper in the interest of the people if the prime minister whispers something in her ear to tell her what to do? Who is going to not think that? There's everything in her history that tells me that she's not going to be independent. Everything I know tells me she's not going to be independent. When Mr. Manning got ill, she jumped on Rowley bandwagon. And she jumped on the Rowley bandwagon. Excuse my French, but she did. She jumped on the Rowley bandwagon, as many of them did. As many of them did. So who is going to tell me that she is not going to do that? Who is going to let me convince me? She cannot convince me that. That's why when Kamala put up, what's his name? Israel Khan, she was right to put him up because he's a politician. He's a party man. He's a party man. So they have taken our constitution and made a mockery of it and made it into a party, instrument of the party rather than a democratic Republican constitution, which is and it is the prime minister should never have done that to our country. It is the wrong thing to have done. And I feel very, very strongly about it. And I hope that Ms. Kangaloo will not take it as a personal to her, because it is not personal to her, but it is a wrong thing to do. This is a wrong thing to do. I think I've made myself as clear as I can. As clear as mud. Where's David? Where's Richard?
Well, I don't know. He's probably getting closer to his laptop, I believe.
You understand what I'm saying? Look at Paula May Weeks. I have to give that example with Paula May Weeks.
Yes.
Paula May Weeks, Court of Appeal judge. And on the day when Bliss Sipasad or Trot, I never remember which one, was the chair of the Police Service Commission under Section 123, comes with her merit list to the president. And on the top of the merit list is Gary Griffith, who obviously the Prime Minister has made it very clear he did not want. Yes. Same day the Prime Minister goes and visits the president, gives her a report. And hear what the president says. He says the report, the list was immediately withdrawn. What do you mean immediately withdrawn? Once it's given to you, couldn't give it back?
That's right.
Early on, and you know why I'm being so strong on it? Because I saw the letters earlier on when the Police Service Commission chair had written to the President, Paula May Weeks, to ask her to make an appointment of an acting Police Service Commissioner and a Deputy Police Service Commissioner, because Gary Griffith's term of office had come to an end, I think, in August of 2021 or whenever it was. And I have seen the letter, and the president wrote her back and said very clearly, I cannot do that. I am a creature of statute. I must operate within the four corners of the statute. And there is nothing in the statute or any order made under the Constitution which gives me the authority to make an acting appointment. And on that basis, she did not make it. But she knew about the four corners of this Constitution then. Yeah. But when the Prime Minister came and told her that do not take that list from the Police Service Commission chairperson, she forgot her independence as the president. Yes, because I've written an article on it, and I've asked, what do you mean by immediately withdrawn? What kind of language is that? What kind of passive legalese, passive language? What do you mean immediately withdrawn? Something could only be withdrawn and was given to you. And there is nothing in the four corners of the Constitution which allows you to return it. What you were to do was to prepare the notification to Parliament and send up the report that the Prime Minister came and gave you. And you should have said to the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, there is nothing in the Constitution which allows me not to receive, once it has been submitted to me, for me to have it withdrawn. I do not have that power. Please show it to me in the Constitution. There's nothing there. I have to prepare the notification, and you will have to send a report to the Parliament for affirmative resolution. But I cannot do anything because I'm expected to act independently in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, where the Constitution so requires. And she was a Court of Appeal judge, much less for someone coming out of the bowels of the PNM. How much confidence can one have that she will be a good gatekeeper for us? And if you want, and if the country wants someone who is a figurehead, a ceremonial president, all right. But if that is not what the Constitution intended, it is wrong. And for people to come out to support Christine Gangaloo, she's so nice, she did all that. Nobody's questioning that. We are mixing it up. Nobody's questioning. She's a nice person. She's decent. She's maintained a dignified air about it. No one is questioning that. What we are questioning is her suitability to be the head of state in a Republican constitution, which would require her at times to act in her own judgment, to act in her own discretion when she's coming straight out of the bowels of the PNM, where she has rested for at least, let me go back to 2000, at least the last 18 years. And that is why they were perfectly right to put up Israel Khan as their candidate, because he has said to you straight out, I am a party man. Party for party. You have desecrated, disrespected the constitution of our country, and I hope that they're all pleased with themselves because they can't do it and they're doing it. And power is seductive. Power is seductive. Position is seductive. But we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm saying this. I hope she will not pass me in the street. I hope Kerwin will still say Mr. Me. Kerwin, if you're not listening, if you're listening, Kerwin, this is not personal to you. And you know it's not personal to the president. You know that it is not. But I feel that someone has to speak out, and sitting on there and saying what a nice person. What that has to do with it? There are a lot of nice people.
Yeah.
That's what you put the person there for, because they're nice and because they're dignified. You don't do that unless the position is ceremonial. Well, if it's just ceremonial, okay, good, go ahead. Go ahead if it's ceremonial. Then you're right. But if it's not intended to be ceremonial, that's an insult to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Do you think that
you're doing it because you can?
Could that be changed? Could that be changed as to elect a president? It must be via the electoral college. Could that be changed at any time?
No, you can, but that means a constitution. I mean, listen, it's you know, at the end of the day, with everything, it always comes down to human nature. You know, so who's going to guard the gods? At the end of the day, that's why cases go to court. You know, you'll have legislation, you'll have contracts, whatever, and you're hoping they're watertight. You're hoping you're covering your bases and everything. But at the end of the day, it's people. No, you ask yourself, should the Prime Minister have done that? No, he should not have. He should not have done that, because his responsibility is not to the party. This is not a party thing. This is a country thing. And if you really want to be prime ministerial, I mean, history is not going to be kind to him, you know. Now, you see, maybe 20 years from now, and people know, not scared anymore to say anything, and then they have enough distance and dispassion in the issue, they might be able to say, well, as Prime Minister, perhaps he should not have done that. Maybe that was not the right thing to do for the country. Maybe he's sending the wrong message. He would have gotten so much more. I've always said I don't have very much respect for him. It is true, I don't. I really do not. But I would have at least gotten my respect for doing the right thing. And he didn't do it. And that is why it's not personal, but it is just party politics going on. This country, I don't know. Let me just say one thing before Richard comes on. Let me just say one thing. Yeah. And Richard comes on. Now, it may very well be that other people were approached. And if you persons were approached, you would have to have come with a certain level of, as I said, intellectual gravitas, achievement, you know, someone that people will look up to and say, yes, they have done well. And also to persons who have not been involved in any bacchanalia or any kind of, you know, you want to look at that. But, you know, those kind of people, they're probably towards the twilight of their career. And I don't know which president has served as president. Maybe Nur Hassan Ali was the one exception that has not served as president and left the office unscathed and had their reputation not destroyed by taking that office. So sometimes people would say to themselves, look, I work too hard for my reputation. I work too hard to be respected and highly regarded. For me to put myself under public scrutiny in what really a political position. I don't think I I don't want that to be the last thing people know about me or say about me after I've served so well and been so highly respected. Douglas Mendes is a good example. I'm sure if Douglas Mendes, they put Douglas Mendes, everybody would have been supportive of him. People would have supported him. And maybe not everybody, but the most of the population will have thought he had the qualities to be a head of state. I'm not saying, I don't know if they asked him. Gillian Lucky was somebody told me, called her name. I think people would have gone behind Gillian Lucky. I think people would have supported, although at one time she was, but that was years ago. I think people would have supported a person like Gillian Lucky or Douglas. Maybe they were approached, but if they probably said, no, I'm not going to put my reputation and everything at risk in the last few, my professional life, towards the end of my professional life. No, I'm not going to do that. So I don't know if they did ask other people. So let me just say that.
Karen, what I could say is that the system has worsened and it will get worse from here on forward because of what happened here. Forget that happened with A&R Robinson. It happened with A&R Robinson during the coalition, if I could call it that, with Mr. Robinson's party. When he said we can make the difference, 17-17-2. Then he joined with Mr. Pandey and then he became president. People sort of understood that position. Clearly, there was a deal on the table to make Mr. Pandey prime minister. And when the new president, when they had to go and elect a new president, he'd have been the candidate and he therefore would have been the guy. The government would favor. And then I think Morgan Jobe replaced A&R Robinson in the by-election in Tobago. And he became Minister of National Security. I think that is my recollection. And this lady didn't want to work with Morgan Jobe. You remember that, right?
I didn't remember that Morgan Jobe had been, but you're refreshing my memory.
Yeah, Morgan Jobe replaced A&R Robinson. And there was this other lady who they sang tough songs about from Tobago. Come on,
Pamela.
I know what you're talking about, but go ahead with your story. You still celebrating
Pamela, right?
Oh gosh. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. And they had some
celebrating Christmas
about her, and I'm not going to get into it. You can't do a drill personal, but they said some really less than pleasant
right,
things.
Let's not do that.
And she had something to say about the late Dr. Jobe himself, right?
Right.
So although Mr. Robinson was a sitting politician, if you cut a deal, you understand? People were a bit accepting of that because they understood. Even Mr. Manning, who said we fought alone, we lose alone, we stand alone. When we were in trouble, he came out and said, I was willing to meet with Mr. Robinson. And Mr. Robinson said, okay, I'll go meet you there. Wait, they give him a time. And then he went and he met.
You're losing your audio, Richard.
Well, he's getting back his audio. The big difference is that A&R Robinson and Pandey had fallen out before, so nobody could say in Christine Kangu thing she is a protege of Rowley. Nobody could say that about A&R Robinson. That's the difference.
I had no meeting with Mr. Manning because Mr. Manning made it very clear. Yeah, he said, any better? No, everybody know he was a different position. So people knew it as that make A&R Robinson sort of president coming off the seat as an active politician, and people felt his independence would have been maintained. Because you can look at A&R Robinson at any time and believe any prime minister could tell him what to do if he didn't want to do it.
Not only that. When he and Pandey fell out in the back in the days with the NAR thing, and Pandey thought he was going to get most of the seats.
And Mr. Pandey formed Club 88.
Exactly. So it's not the same.
Yeah.
Christine is a protege
You know?
She's a mentee of
And
our
then he
current Prime Minister.
demonstrated that he was always
He was Prime Minister before, you know, nobody going to tell him what to
So
do.
I was saying that to contrast the difference between that politician who became president and this politician who's now president.
Yes.
And the reason why I think this one is worse because this government did not need to do what they did.
That's it.
They could have looked outside and get somebody else. And then I help the prime minister to remain true to his cause and let him be consistent with his expressions that he made when he was not prime minister. They could have found somebody else, Karen. Karen, if they had come to me, I would have told him. Wow.
Too late, Richard. Too late.
Yeah, well, I think perhaps I could.
Oh, God.
Have been the...
You have to stop talking to me, Richard. You have to stop talking to me. That's a completely different situation.
Correct one for me.
Because
there you go. I was always able to.
Robinson was a prime minister. Dropping in and out, you know, Richard.
Yes, you know, and
but you made a good point about the political thing. But the major difference is A.N.R. Robinson was a man of his own. He was a prime minister before. Nobody gonna tell him what to do. He and Bandy are already fallen out. So Bandy gonna instruct. The fear I have is she's not independent enough. She's a protege, a mentee of this prime minister. If she is not a person in her own. She not only politically from the bowels of the PNM, but I feel she feels a certain level of extreme loyalty to the current prime minister, which will translate into an inability to be nothing more than a ceremonial head of state.
Karen,
that is my point.
Karen, you hear me? You hear me, Karen?
You.
Right. You know, in law, yes, you know, in law, there's this principle that justice must not only be seen or done, it must appear to have been done. Not so?
Correct.
Right. So if there's a matter to which someone feels the president should intervene and that person believes that person is another party, what you would find happening if the president doesn't take a position to support that individual, it leaves that individual to feel and believe that I am being treated this way because they know me not to be one of them. You understand that?
Yeah, but I have to correct you that when you finish. I'll have to correct you. But I must correct that because I don't want anyone to go ahead and think that she can do what she wants. She can't.
No. We know she's limited, but there are times she'll be called upon
by the Constitution itself. By the Constitution, not by Dr. Rowley. By the Constitution.
Yeah, and depending on where she goes, in other words, let me put it this way: whenever there's a contentious issue on the table, if she only does what she's supposed to do, which is the correct thing, but it falls in favor of the government, what we're discussing right now will come back up.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? And that is terribly unfortunate because this president will be boxed in. The only time her decisions or her interventions going to be accepted is if she comes on the other side.
This is it.
You understand that?
Sad? And that is sad.
Yeah.
And that is sad.
If she goes against the other side, there's all the reasons that are good reasons for doing so.
Absolutely.
What we discussing now will come back up.
Exactly.
So how that gonna be good? And that's the perception they're talking about. That is the perception they're talking about.
That is it.
And you know what happens?
That is very true.
People on our side, if she does that, would start to feel how she can do that. Because now you create an expectation among the rank and file on our side that if our team is saying this way and you go against it, you open yourself up now for attack from those who are supposed to be supporting you.
And if you go and if you do what the prime minister have wanted you to do, where you have the ability to exercise judgment and discretion, other people will say, look at her. It doesn't matter. She just following instructions.
That's
What are you
it.
putting yourself in that position for?
Notwithstanding, if the conclusion you arrive at, it was your
Would have been
research position and it's the
exactly.
correct thing to do. Once it goes
Exactly.
against somebody, you're in trouble. So she has to be the best balancer of all time. She
And I
has
don't
to
know how
come down
to
in the
do it.
center to please both sides, and they both say, we agree with the president. And I want to tell you, those politicians in the parliament, they can't even agree with their own self. And in the plural sense, with their own selves, they can't even do that. Where Christine Kangaloo is going to get that Jesus wisdom from, to come down and say, hey, this is a position like when Jesus said, where are your accusers now? You without stone, you without sin, cast the first stone. And those who tried to set Jesus up didn't expect that. Caiaphas ended up almost breaking the hand of his colleague when he got to raise his hand. Caiaphas held it and said, what are you, crazy? You know that we are all sinners. Now we try to tell him, Jesus caught us. Our plan has backfired. Where is Christine Kangaloo going to get that degree of wisdom from? That requires wisdom that does not exist on the earth today. And she's going to be in trouble. And she might be in trouble within the first 3 months. Because things are so contentious in this country now. They turned down people for marching the other day. Those marchers are going to find a way to the president's door. When she doesn't endorse what the war said, nobody has to take the letter. They're going to be across the savannah saying, Kangaloo must go. So they're going to start marching for one thing. And when they reach the president, when she go see them, the whole march turn, you know, she must go.
Because the other thing, to a good point, which I never have made on any of the shows, is that the Constitution also provides that the Prime Minister should meet with the President regularly and update, exactly right, and update her or him with what is going on in the country's affairs. So it means that there's an expectation that she might voice an opinion about concerns about the crime situation. Is she going to do that? Because if she goes to criticize the crime situation in the country, is she not criticizing the Prime Minister and their inability to deal with the crime situation? Is she willing to talk about the level of poverty in this country and the level of income inequality in this country? Is she willing to talk? There was an article by Ralph Maraj this weekend where he says Dr. Roger Hossain from UE was his
senior lecturer at the University of West Indies.
Yes, and he has his PhD from University of Cambridge. Says between 2015 to today, the inflation in food has gone up by 46%. Is she willing to go and tell the government it is time that you encourage entrepreneurial activity among those who fall in the lower income so that we stop that? Is she willing to speak about matters that affect the country as a whole, which when she speaks about it may be seen as being critical of the Prime Minister and of the PNM party because she's a party appointee? Yes, that is what she's going to happen to her. So then she'll find herself any problems. She can't win one either way, you know, because the last thing they said about Paula Mavis, she call her mute. Paula Mavis gets so much licks over that Gary Griffith issue. So much licks over the Gary Griffith issue. And then I thought they were unfair with that mispronunciation of the Hindu name, but I'm not going down that road to get a whole set of the kind of level of sensitivity. Right, but I will say though that then the next thing is said about her is that she got mute. She had no opinion about anything because she's afraid to have an opinion. She's afraid to have an opinion. Is that going to be Christine Kangaloo's problem? She has no opinion about the 3 teenagers were killed. And David O'Meara was the constituent which I was the MP, where her father-in-law, the dear Mr. Anthony Garcia, resides, as far as I'm aware. Is she 3 teenagers in one thing murdered? In one thing shot down, one of them 16, not even 19, 6 years of age. Is she not sitting aghast at the level of murders, the runaway murders in this country? Is she not saying to the Prime Minister, I want to know what's going on in the country? What are you doing to stem the flow of this bloodletting in this country? Is she going to make a statement about that? No, she's frightened to do that. Because if she do that, she can't win, She can't win. Because she's a party appointee, the party will be vexed with her. You come and say anything against the Prime Minister, and you say anything, you're criticizing the PNM, as if you're supposed to be a PNM appointee. That is their problem. But you see, they bring it on themselves because they decided to put a PNM party appointee as our head of state. Instead of pretending, instead of pretending and bringing the Court of Appeal judge, and instead of pretending and bringing International Court of Justice, you bring a party card holder, a PNM in the bowels of the PNM, so that whatever she does, it will be seen through the lens, not of a head of state doing the right thing as head of state of the country, but look how she disloyal to the PNM. Well, if they say that about her, she bring it on herself because people see her as a party appointee. That is, so though she can't win. If she goes against them, you're going against the party. Not the country, You're going against the party. If she goes and does what the Prime Minister wants, look at her. Everybody who's not a PNM party hack will say, look at her. She just, what is she? She has no independence. Where the Constitution says she can exercise discretion or judgment. She's afraid to do that. Like Miss Paula May Weeks, who said the list was immediately withdrawn. What a lawyer herself saying that? What does that mean? Please explain yourself. It means that the Prime Minister said, give back the chairman of the Police Service Commission list because I don't want Gary Griffith. That's what it meant. And let her be faced with something like that. Let her be faced with something like that. And no one will see her decision except through a party lens. No one will see her decision except that she's towing the PNM party left or she against the PNM. And you know who's to blame for that? The Prime Minister, and unfortunately herself for taking the position.
Karen, you know of anyone who could...
That is what I am saying.
Yeah. Karen, you hear me?
Okay.
Because your picture now has frozen.
Yes, so no Christmas over.
Right. You hearing me?
Yes, and I said you have Christmas. Christmas is over.
Oh, you're looking at the thing on the wall. Karen.
Oh, I mean, can I miss it?
Okay. No, I like that one. So,
but it's Christmas is over.
No, it's not lighting anymore. It's not lighting
okay,
anymore.
All right, go ahead. All right. Okay,
but let me just remove it from your site.
No, I don't mind it. I'm a Christian and I know. No, it's not. It's not.
You like it too, then? You like it too?
Yes, I like it. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing. I like it. I love Christmas. I love. Yes. No. I just tease it.
Think I wear?
I don't know.
I rock like alligator, I can take that.
In politics, you have to be, You can't be thin skin.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know anyone who could uncondition or decondition themselves from what they learned over a considerable period of time? I don't know of anyone. No. Right. And therefore, Christine Kangaloo has been in our party for so long and peddling to the nation in whatever corners she will go in by her very presence to whoever she talked to and about our party when she responded to her question about the goodness of the PNM and what we represent and what we stand for. How you can become president the very next day after years of that.
Yes.
And you become immediately impartial.
You didn't even go for rehab, You didn't
even take a 6 months break. I've been out of active politics for a year. I've been out of active politics. She can't even say I was out of active politics for one day. One day earlier, you were exposing our values.
Imagine that.
And the very next day, you're taking a position to say, I was never attached to that belief. I'm an impartial
Exactly.
and decent person, and you should believe me. Well, I want to say, the very act of that switching overnight informs me that people would not be able to listen to you, take it seriously. Because you can't go and tell
And
them
why
that
would she do
was
that
yesterday and today's
herself?
today. Yeah, it just, while that would work for Jack, it can't work for a president. Yesterday was yesterday and today's today. Come on.
Not only that, she's not a politician, that's what I'm saying. So Israel we could very well go on the opposition bench because he could not go in as head of state. You cannot be fighting the government. You are there to work with the government, but at the same time, you are a gatekeeper. And her family is a PNM family from South. The whole family is a PNM. She grew up in the PNM. She is the PNM. How are you going to be able to? I'm sure, listen, and some people have disappointed me, because, there are some people who will sit down there and criticize the government, criticize and want to pretend that the government does not do things that are independent and will not do things without fear or favor. And they take into consideration things that are not interesting. And those are the very same people I like her. What that has to do with it? I like her too. I like her very much. And I told you all already on this show that Kerwin, who I like very, very much as a person, was initially my lawyer when I started my long, long, long journey with my matter, which is still not resolved. But we must one day we should talk about the health sector in this kind of private health sector, because I do have some things I would like to offer in a very broad way, things I hope that they will do. And I did go up on there as an aside. I know I'm digressing, but I did go on their site for trying to be Association of Doctors, whatever it is they call themselves. And I went up there just to see what information one could get. And there's so much that is lacking from them. But what I was saying is her husband, Kerwin, was one of my first lawyers. It just happened that it didn't work out, that he could continue. Not on his part. It was not on his part, but it could not continue. But by the time Kerwin was no longer my lawyer, he had done my whole statement of case, which was a very detailed, very complex, very complicated statement of case. And when things did not work out that he could continue as my lawyer, Kerwin would not take a cent from me. I don't know many lawyers who would do that. Not even say, okay, well, I'll give you a discount. Kerwin absolutely would not. So when you see me taking this position, you have to know that I hope that he will understand this has absolutely nothing to do with Christine Kangaloo or himself. And nothing to do with them. But it has everything to do with looking after what I consider the interests of the country and what Democratic Republican Constitution intends. And for our Prime Minister to take somebody out of the bowels of a party and put them the next day to be the head of our head of state, it is, I mean, the point you're making, Richard, I know you disappeared somewhere. The point I'm making is that you're saying that the Prime Minister understood the lack of wisdom or the reason why one should not do it. He understood why that was not the right thing to do. And that reason has not changed. So it really goes, but his credibility has been shot so many times. So I don't know if it don't make too much difference. I don't know to what extent, I'm sorry to say, that affects his credibility at all. So if he turns around and argues against it, I guess he could be a lawyer. That's what they do. But he himself understood why it was not the right thing to do. He understood it. And now he does the same thing that he knows should not have been done and foists it on the country. And people would support Christine against Israel Khan because, my God, do you want somebody coming in there to fight the government? To come in there like if they go in there as representing the opposition? You don't want that. I wouldn't want that. And clearly some members of the UNC, I believe it is felt him not a person who they wanted to send a message to, I think, to the UNC office. I think they wanted to send a message to Kamala that they absolutely would not support Israel Khan, because Israel Khan, he switches from night to day. It seems that he can go from one position to the next position, to the next position, and now his new position, and in a very aggressive, in my view, very belligerent a manner, and that is not what you want from a head of state. Had it not been, let me just say this, had it not been the fact that Christine Kanglu had not been so immersed in the body and the bowels of the PNM as she is and has been for at least 18, maybe 20 years, without break. Only she couldn't be an opposition minister, MP, because she did not win her seat, but not because she didn't try. For so many years, had it not been for that, I would say she's a wonderful choice, but she's not the right choice.
Yeah, she's not the right choice. And I know we got that point and we're still going to continue with it. Because there's so many reasons why she's not the correct choice. Not that something is personally wrong with her.
Not at all. Not at all.
Resume, everything, her history.
And a personality too.
Suitable, yeah. And she has a firm way of dealing with matters. And then I think most people in the country...
Dignified. She's very dignified.
Yes. Yeah.
Very dignified.
But is the political implication to this appointment that would not settle well with people and make it difficult for this choice to resonate with people? And that difficulty going to take her through this entire term.
You made a good point, You made a good point, which I already never spoke about before myself, which was that made me think back that the president in the Constitution says that she should have, and as commander-in-chief, she has to do the same thing. Have regular meetings to know what's going on in the country and so on, and the prime minister to update her so she's aware. And you don't want it to be aware because you want it to be able to every now and again. You don't want it to become mute. But if she starts being unmute, what's she going to say about the crime? What is she going to say? What is she going to say?
But Karen, above all of that, I will think a president, when I was talking about impartiality, a president must become or be believable.
Yeah.
When the president speaks to the country, people must be able to say, okay, I didn't consider that. Or I didn't, and the president shares that view too. And therefore, I guess I was right with my thought process. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that type of thing. And you can lean on the people. But as it is now, wherever the president, she cannot speak on any hair splitting issue in the country. Wherever there's a deadline, she can't. She can't.
This is true. She cannot. Yeah. Because every time she speaks, you know what people say?
So limited powers.
PNM. Written all over her forward. She can't get away from that. She didn't give us some. She want to take a little vacation from the PNM now. Go somewhere and take a year off now. Take a year off now.
Her name may be negatively splashed on billboards and all types of things all over the country. You understand what I'm saying? And she you don't have to accept everything you offer, You can accept and say, Chief,
thank
well,
you.
I appreciate your consideration, but did you consider this? Did you consider there's a contention here and I had to deal with that?
Thank you.
Did you consider what my family could be put through? You understand what I'm saying? I will not be the best person to serve you.
Did you consider what your reputation may be at the end of the 5 years?
Anytime I take your side, we're both in trouble. We're both in trouble, and I can tell you.
And if she don't take your side, what will happen? She's in trouble.
Karen, as we speak, this opposition might
be crafted. She doesn't take the side, what will happen?
Same thing. If she take the other side, if you take the other side of Buxton, you take, I mean, come on. And as we speak, Karen, I will not be surprised if right now they are crafting certain questions to put to the president to deliver mails. You're going to hear a press conference. We sent 3 mails to the president and we are waiting a response. And after 2 weeks and they get a response, they're going to say, no, why she respond? She's a Pierre.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is, and you know, you made a good point, you know, Richard. You know what's a very good point you
That
made?
is the 23rd time for the day you said that, Karen. And that's all my points.
I said you made a very good point.
Yeah,
because you know, but I'm not one that would just say that just like that. So I really do think, you know, well, from my point of view, maybe I hadn't thought of it, so maybe that's why it's
Karen,
resonating
that is
with me as
coming
much.
from a high place. You've been one of the brightest persons and certainly one of the top 3 females in the country as it relates to one person being a Republican.
Who's the other two? I know the other. I know one of them, you know, and I agree with one. I only agree with one of them. They better let go the other one, eh?
No, cannot do that, Karen,
they
but
better not call the other one, eh?
Okay, all right. So I didn't say what number you are in the top 3, but I'm saying
okay.
You're in the top 3. You could be first, but you're in the top 3. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, whoa, but nobody remembers second and third. Remember that.
Well,
just remember. You remember who came second in
1, 2, 3, but I'm saying in the top
3. Ran. Nobody remembers also ran. Okay, so I don't want to be in the top 3. Anyway, all joking aside, the point that you made, which really is a very, I said for the 24th time, a very relevant, good point. I must get another word besides good. I must look up my synonyms for good. I must Google another word for good. Is that when she has to talk, maybe she's invited to a school or the chamber, somewhere she has to give public speeches. And obviously she has to speak of the issues of the day. Issues of the day are the inflation, the income inequality in the country, the lack of enforcement or lack of implementation of laws that are frustrating the country. These are the realities. You know, you can't come there and tell me they built a hospital there. And, you know, somebody wrote a letter to the papers. I mean, this is to tell you the level at which either the person pretending they don't understand the role or they're mixing up matters and think she's going up as a minister. The person wrote a letter and talking about the PNM bill, now building this road here, Toko building this road here. That's not the point. That's not what she's not going up as a PNM. She's not going up as that. She is going up to represent us, the body politic, to represent the concerns that she has. And when she speaks, she's going to speak about the issues that are affecting us. And what is number one is the crime. And what's your prime minister doing? Your prime minister saying, what the prime minister saying now? What do you say now? Or one of them is, if you see a gun, if you say no, it's not him.
No, what he said today or yesterday was on crime.
Was something
that, in other words, only know the people who committing the crime. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, and I bet he knows it too.
Yeah, and if you see something, say something. So
why you don't say something?
So it's the same thing he said differently. And I know I want to deal with that today. I'll deal with that tomorrow. But there's a confession of incompetence. You see when people can't solve when you can't solve a problem, you try to say things to signal
they don't want to solve the problem.
They don't want to solve the problem. You can't solve the problem or you don't want to solve it, but you have to say something to put it on the people. Put it on the people or both. That's the same thing he did there. And in other words, have no expectation of me because only heard what I said already. The problem is on you all. The problem is on you all, and therefore you all ought to know we can't solve crime in this country for the reasons I have already expressed. So when all they start telling the police who committing crime, it will start to be solved. Don't come to me, as you try to say. And what
just arrested.
I cannot solve it.
But excuse me, they just arrested 8 police officers from the FUL department. So you cannot go to the police, we know that. And by the way, I don't know if they've talked about it much, but I think the Prime Minister should talk about the work of Interpol that has based its headquarters, the Caribbean headquarters in Barbados, and has been doing tremendous work. I don't know if anybody reported it in the paper. It was reported But about 2 or 3 days ago, there was a haul of 80 million US dollars worth of cocaine in Jamaica in one of the ports. Since they had this thing called Trigger 87, which I mentioned, which Interpol working with it's a hub, and they working with the Homeland Security, US Bureau of Alcohol, and all of that, called CARICOM Impact. They did 1 week of work, and guess, I don't think they ever mentioned Trinidad. In 10.1 tons of cocaine was 2.5 tons of cannabis. Why is it the prime minister, who is the head of national security, in the National Council, he doesn't know this? How come I know this? Why don't you set up the thing to test your blood? What you call it? Your DNA. Why we have to send away for DNA? How long it taking you? Why don't you do the obvious things that need to be done in this country? And you keep on saying family values. Why don't you do a proper survey, a proper report, and go into all different parts of the country and Tobago to see who are the perpetrators of crime? And then you look to see, are these families single families? Are these families unemployed? Are these families unemployed? Are these families single? In other words, are these problems the reason why we have the level of crime and drugs and all of that in this country? Is Richard talking and I'm talking at the same time? Huh?
Richard?
No. I'm not sure if I'm talking over Richard, am I?
No, he isn't talking. I guess
he's talking, but not okay, because I didn't want to be rude to my wonderful co-host. You know? Yes.
The only time, Karen, I was not speaking, Karen.
Your mouth was moving, that's all.
No, I was getting prepared to talk, but I wasn't talking yet.
You know something? I go and call Trump and tell Trump, I have somebody here for you. You see how you're going up in 2020. What year are you going up again as president? Listen, they have some talent in this country. Have some talent here. That will what? Huh?
He's going back up in 2024.
You see
he might run from inside a prison cell. He might be running from inside the prison cell, but he's running.
It's not happening. You didn't see what they find out with Biden? They say you find classified documents in Mar-a-Lago, but guess what? We find classified documents in the Biden something office, and guess what? We went by your home and we took out 6 boxes of documents marked classified. They don't want to hear whether it's unimportant or not important. A name classified, right? A name classified. Listen. Do not discount Trump, because we cannot discount our own prime minister here, who reminds me somewhat of Trump, and he has been very successful.
Yeah,
he's been very successful. So you know.
If anybody who reminds me of Trump, I'm only talking about me, I see them as people furthest away from truthfulness, you know. I see them as the people who are very strange to the truth, you know, Karen.
No, they misspeaking. All they did is misspeaking. That is your problem.
Misspeaking.
You know, you just say that, but he just misspeaking, that's all. That's all. You see, you have to learn the jargon.
Yeah,
so when your mouth was moving and you weren't talking.
I told I was getting prepared to talk. So I said I was talking, but not to you, knowing the system. I was only warming up. You know, they had Bill Clinton. Clinton. They went back in Bill Clinton's history. Hold on. And they say,
fly.
okay, the man is Clinton. They say, what kind of man is Clinton? He want to run for president. Now he became president. Did he ever share with you all that he was a weed smoker when he was in school, university? You know, Clinton
Yes,
tell
he
them.
did.
Yeah,
What
you
did
know,
he
he
say?
told them.
What did he
He
say?
said, I did had reasons from time to time to smoke marijuana, but I never inhaled it.
There you go. And I never had sex with that woman.
Yeah, yeah.
What
They
is your
talk
name? Look up
about,
the definition of sex and
yeah.
tell me if I ever had. I did not tell a lie.
No,
So
well,
there
he
you
spoke
go.
about instruments, Karen.
So yeah,
Sega,
I told
Sega
you. So
sex, he
you know.
said. Phone sex, pizza sex. That's what he said. Pizza, Sega, and phone. I don't know what he did with those things. I,
we
but
don't
that's what
wish,
he
we
said.
do
That's
not
on the
wish to know.
record. Yeah,
We don't wish to. And guess what?
yeah.
He continued. Listen, you ever talk about the comeback kid? If you want to do a study of the comeback period, if anybody did that, Bill Clinton is a study on the comeback kid. You never would have thought, after all what they put into there, that he still remained prime minister, president. I think he won an X2. That is a lesson, and there's a lesson there to be learned. There's a lesson in Bill Clinton. So he just misspoke. That's all. That is all. And you were talking, you weren't talking, and your mouth was just moving. That's all. I'm sorry, I was grunting now. Sorry. Anyhow, I think we have exhausted Ms. Kanglu and our Prime Minister and his appointment, and we can all say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail. So there we go. And the
Karen,
PNMites are very
Karen,
happy
go
with
back
that.
to the president because it wouldn't stop her. If I were in her position,
Yeah,
let
but I
me
was
tell what
wondering
she
about
has.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me tell what has to happen. One of the first things she must do as
What she
president.
must do.
Let me
Yes,
tell
hear
you,
you.
if I were in her
Okay.
position, given that
Yeah.
yesterday I was a politician, a full-blown politician, a card-toting politician, a person who was presiding in the Senate, let me tell her what I would have done. And I hope she listening, you know.
Uh-huh.
Or
Don't worry,
somebody
somebody listening and telling them. Don't worry, they listen to
right,
you.
yeah, yeah. I would have gone back over my whole political career and start making notes
Yeah.
of the positions I took on every single matter. Because if she
Yeah.
did, if I was opposed to her, you know what I will be doing on the contrary? I will now be making notes of all the positions that she took in the past. You
Yeah, you go to
understand?
the Hansard. You can go to the
No,
Hansard.
no, not just in parliament, outside, speeches, things you said, your position when you spoke on it. I was going back into
Yesterday
all,
was yesterday.
and when something comes up now and you go against it, which is against what you stood for,
Yeah,
just
you
like what
should be in
happened with
trouble.
PM now and appointing a politician. I was going to say,
Yeah.
but how you say this now, and in this
Yeah.
time when this was so, this is what you
Yeah.
said. Madam
Yeah.
President, could you reconcile that for me so I can
Yeah, that
understand?
is very true. Mm.
That's the first thing I'll be doing. Because now she had to be careful what she says. Because she now had to try to speak consistently with positions previously taken, you know. Failure to do that, I tell you, this is a president who has just come to office with the highest likelihood, the highest potential to end up in hot water the fastest. This,
Right.
you know, it has a principle of that they talk about the boiling frog theory. You ever heard about that?
Yeah, but somebody told me it's not true, but it's a good theory though.
No, it
But
is
I
true.
heard it's not true.
It
It's
is
no.
true. No, no. If a
You go
frog,
and look it
if a
up. It is
frog
an
leaves
urban
normal
tale.
temperature, hold
You
on,
want us
Karen,
to go?
if
Listen,
a
you
frog
have
leaves
your
normal
Google. Where's your son, your
temperature,
bright son? Your son was the doctor. Go and ask him if it's an urban tale. It's an
guy.
urban tale. But go ahead. I know what you're going to
No,
say. Go
no,
ahead with
tell
the
it.
story. I know the
Yeah.
story. Go ahead. But I
Okay,
deleted
right.
this out. Go
So
ahead.
let me get this story. If a frog
Yes.
leaves one temperature and jumps into another like hot water, it will jump right back out because the frog knows there's a difference there compared to where I was. So it will come out. But if the frog is in water, normal temperature, and you light a stove, if you in a pot, and that water starts to get hot, the frog would assume wrongly that just how it feeling there is how it is all over. And it would stay right there and die. That is the
Well, he
boiling
did it well.
frog
He did a
theory.
good explanation of it.
You
He
understand
did a
that?
good explanation. Sir, I understand it. I have said it before, that frog thing, because it became very popular at one time when everybody was talking about. By the time you realize that you're in trouble, it's too late
Too late.
to jump out the pot. Too
That's
late shall be the cry. So I said to someone who I believe would have, anyway, someone I asked, and they laughed at me and said to me, don't you know that's just an urban tale? It's not true. I said, you're not. No. It is true. And I proceeded to look it up and found out it was not true. But then I might be wrong. And we don't mind. The point is a good point.
It depends on how extensive your research was, Karen.
Okay. Mr. Noray, I will say, regardless, it is a very good point.
Yeah.
So what is you're saying about who is in that pot? I want to know who is in that pot.
Well, let me tell you.
Who is in that pot?
Not a frog.
Huh?
Not a frog. Not a frog.
A prince? Is a prince in the frog?
All I'm saying, no. All I'm saying is to apply that to the circumstances surrounding this current president.
Yeah.
And she could be in hot water. Yeah. She started hot because it had people outside the parliament when the election was going to take place trying to change her name, all kind of thing, and telling Rowley to take his, so the water started hot. So she knew it was a hot water matter. But I want to say, I think this is the first time I've seen that around electing a president. So it started off very contentiously already. That's a problem. That's signal number one. And I'm saying
that is very true.
That water would only get hotter.
It's true.
And the president.
You're making some good points, Richard.
Oh my dear.
Well, I want to look up on the Google for word for good. Let me look up another word for Google.
Yeah. It would be
good. Very instructive.
It would be good if it could look for something else better than good. So it would just be good.
But I want a word that really resonates, that really captures what you're saying. Very insightful. Yeah. And my brother, when he was at university,
I can give you a pair of words.
I'm going to give you a word
that you don't have to use good for, and it is not comparatively. What you could say, because good will just be the positive degree. Let me tell you this, Karen. You can always say, well done, Richard.
To me today, No,
you can always just say, well done, Richard. Well done.
Okay, and I wanted to give you a word. I had a brother of mine who, every time he came from university, would come with a new word. And this word is applicable in this thing. And he would say it in a very foolish way that he was wont to do. And he would say, that was very perspicacious of you. Perceptive. Very perspicacious.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that's a good point. That was a very perspicacious point that you're making. But it is really, really is. Because the thing is, if a politician says that, as Mr. Panier says, politics has a morality of its own, and yesterday was yesterday, so they can say those things and get through with that. But when you, as the head of state, come in and contradicting yourself and then go into the Hansard, they go after in the Hansard, they could just go in the Hansard, and if they have seen, I don't know if they recorded any speeches, but you are right. There will be no excusing her, because they are not going to say you are a politician, and you could say that, and that's what politicians do. You are the head of state, madam. You are the head of the executive, madam.
And she cannot respond and say, I took that position when I was a politician, but today I'm not. So therefore you are saying, when you were a politician, you were deceiving.
You're pretending then. You're really so then you're not a person.
You're not trustworthy.
There you go. You can't win. She can't win.
This is why I told you the water would only get hotter. And I would have hired a team of research officers, and I'd tell them I started politics at age 20. Go back and see all the things I said. I'm paying you all, and bring all my positions to those issues coming up the road. So whenever something happens now, I want to file them in a way that I could further compartmentalize them internally into my mind. So when something comes up, I will know offhand, this was my position back then, and how far I could shift from it without going against it. You understand that? So then I can
let us say this, Richard, I want us to be coming to the end, and I really don't want us to come across as we are like a battering ram and we against. So we are
No,
not
we are not
against
against. We
Christine
got that
Campbell.
point across, Karen.
Yeah, but
Our
we've been very
listeners know
strong
that.
in our position now.
We are talking about future political developments that would happen, not may, will happen once the Lord leaves the world alive. It will happen once we continue
You're
to
making
exist.
some very superior points.
Yes, yes, yes.
I looked it up on my Google.
All right. I don't like the word superior. It makes me feel like you are the student
Superior?
and I'm the teacher. Yeah, well, to be
Yeah, I feel
superior,
that
it
way
means
today.
you're above.
You're
It
making me
means
feel
you're
that
above
way
someone
today.
else, Karen.
Yes, today you are.
No, I wouldn't say that, Karen. Your
You don't have to say
intellectualism
that.
coupled with your beauty, how I could possibly go above that? Come on.
Okay. We leave it alone. Okay, we
Yeah.
leave it alone. But you're making that is very
Karen, I'll
good
accept also
distinction.
I am making some solid points.
Yes, you are. You really
Yeah.
are. You
Yeah.
really, really are. You know, and I had not really thought about it because every time I was thinking of it, I was thinking of looking at the constitutional provisions that, and then countering that against the provisions that gives her judgment, that gives her the ability to just exercise discretion, and wondering whether she would do it. But then again, there's the opportunity for her to speak because we can't be mute, can you? You've got to speak on the issues of the day. You've got to speak on the people want to have the body politic, the people who are there and looking up to you. So, because they are the supreme power. That's what the Republican Constitution says, or the Democratic Republican Constitution says, that the supreme power lies in the people, in the body politic, in the electorate. So when you speak, people expect you to move away from your political and affiliations and look after the interests of the people of the country. And listen, there's so much to be concerned about in this country. The crime alone, the runaway. Are you prepared to talk about it, Madam Minister, Madam the head of state? Are you prepared to talk about it? And are you prepared to speak of the president in an independent way in which you are removed from political consideration, party loyalties? Are you going to be able to do that? You will struggle to do that. You will struggle with that. You will come across as bending over to pretend as though you don't know that these are the problems. So what are you doing there? And then, or if you are willing to really stand up to what you are asked to do, a lot of them are going to be unhappy with you because you are seen as a party appointee, not a political appointee, a party appointee. It's gone worse than political because anybody you appoint may be seen as political.
She will not
but you're gone beyond that. You are party.
Yeah. Karen,
yes,
she cannot she will not be able to have the defense of ignorance as it relates to the issues that are plaguing this country today.
True.
Because the one person who should be
oh, your audio is breaking up.
David.
Very interesting topic.
The issues more than any nation for so long cannot be unaware of these things. So then,
no,
then you have to talk, because if you can't talk, if you can't talk to the people of the country, then who you are president of? Yeah, the island without the people just try to talk to the people. I want to say she has one exit strategy to set the record straight. One. I want to tell her what's that, and it had to be really, really good.
What?
It had to be. She had hit it out the park, and I want to tell is this. You see, in her inauguration, her inaugural speech, she has to deliver a home run, a slam dunk, a knockout punch.
They all do, but they all do.
She had to redefine herself in that speech. She has to say, no, I know, because it will come down to actuality afterwards. But I'm saying what she has to do, she has to take that platform to try to set the tone and redefine herself going forward. And I'll tell you, wherever she said it to, it's going to be held up against her too. Even though she comes
No,
up
no,
close us
no.
holding up a slam dunk, from the moment she shifts a little,
Listen.
in her waters.
Excuse me, I have 2 more minutes. And I just want to say that nobody, she could say all what she wants. All of them say. When the prime minister became prime minister this time, everybody was full of hope. He talked his prime minister of the country, of all the people. Everybody said, oh gosh, this is a new prime minister. When Kamuna come and he talk about how he's a, whatever stripping is, people do not know the power that I have, that I do have. Start off on a wrong note one time, right? Whatever she says, she cannot win. She cannot.
I don't. The powers you don't believe I have, I do.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine him saying
and
that?
And he got a standing ovation. The place rocked.
You understand? Playing like if he going and stand up to them. Yeah, and then soon after that, so much trouble he get himself into. Doesn't matter what he says, just country has seen him come and seen him go. Come and go. So don't go on what she says on thing. She's going to say the right thing. I think she's a lovely person. I think she's a sincere person. I think she's going to be sincere in what she says until she has to join. When she starts to walk the walk, then she will find out that everybody knows she's PNM, not a politician, but a party appointee. A party appointee.
I think, Karen, I think the government can help her though, because the government knows her, and she's a PNM. I think the government can help her. You know what the government can do, Karen? Let me tell you briefly before the time runs out.
You done?
Yeah, seconds. No, my thing saying now 47 seconds. What the government can do. They can decide to tell her every time we believe something of a contentious nature is coming up, based on what we're about to do, you should take a vacation. So I want to say to Christine,
she be going away a lot
every day.
Then they say the mission, they say the mission in action. MIA. AWOL.
Karen, however we twist it, it looked like she's in trouble.
She can't win. All right, we wish her the best. We're not against her. It's wrong. It's a party appointee, and you reap what you sow, and you reap the whirlwind, and we only wait to see what will happen. Shouldn't have taken the position. It shouldn't have been offered to you. That's what we say. The beginning of what today is the first few days after being president, and that's our position. So at the end, we do not want. I don't want anybody to leave on the thing to tell me to leave. I put it on myself. I see leave. I am going. I had a good
leave on your screen.
Richard, as usual. Yes, and David, Daddy Mark.
Yes, Karen.
Good evening, Ruben. Good evening, Melissa, and to all your listeners and viewers. Good evening, and have a wonderful and blessed week. Yes, and next time I come on the show, I don't want to see that Christmas decoration. Huh?
I thought you like it. I thought it was only
I like it for me, but not for the show. All
right,
bye.
I'll put up something of a carnival nature next time.
Yeah.
So the costume are going to play and I'll hang it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Yeah, thank you,
Karen. All right, Karen.
Yes.
I'll set my clock for next week, Monday. Missing you already.
Yes.
Missing you already.
Fooling me already. I'm gone. Me passing 6. I'm gone.
The news straight ahead. Daddy Mac thereafter get home safely.
Thank you, Richard.
The future of talk is